Hi everybody, I'm in Florida right now. I am at the, I was about to say Mission to Millions, but it's the 100 Millionaires Summit 2021. This is the first one. My hair is a mess and I have been crying if you can't see. But it's an amazing experience right now. We're having just lots of information thrown at us and lots of emotional experiences. Emotional experiences abound, is all I have to say. I don't even really know what I came on here to say, but it's amazing what happens when you open yourself up to the universe and you accept her guidance and you forget. I mean, it's hard to forget about what you want, right? It's hard to forget about the plans you have in your head and how things didn't work out for you, maybe how things we just had this session that was a lot about regret and building back from that. I actually had to leave because at the very beginning, Doug, who's an amazing presenter, took us through, was bringing us through like all the lost opportunities in our lives and basically all the regrets, and that was the beginning. He started saying, I was like, nope, I'm not going there. And of course, a lot of people, that was the point, right? Everybody avoids those things, and so he wanted us to connect to those, and then, from there, he would rebuild us. I did leave the room because my feeling was I lived for so long in that space, all those regrets, all the things that I didn't accomplish, all the things that I could have accomplished, all the things that I hated myself for not doing. And to me, it's like I've been there, and I'm not going to do that to myself again, ever again. And that's kind of, I didn't realize that until just right now, but that's been my promise to myself, not to do that ever again. Regret is a completely useless emotion, unless you use it to spur yourself on, which I have. But I am not, because of that, I've found that in myself, and I'm just, anyway. So I did leave the room, but I came back in, and there was a very uplifting vibe in the room, and everything. I don't even know what I'm saying, guys. I'm tired. We went until like midnight last night, and we got up and started at 8. But I guess what I'm just saying is we all have these experiences, or not have these experiences that we regret. And punishing ourselves for them is easy to do. And if you're someone who tends towards depression, it's what you do a lot of. So I want to encourage you to believe that it is possible for you to stop doing that and to rebuild, to realize that regret is not a place to live. Regret is not a place to build a home or something to stew in. It's something to use to spur you into action. Because for me, when I was stewing in regret, I was assaulting myself with it, assaulting myself with my hatred of myself, and I would just say so many bad things to myself about myself, and because of that, I was unable to take action. So saying regret is useless is kind of useless too, because when you're in that state, you can't stop beating yourself up. So for me, getting out of that, the first thing I had to do was stop beating myself up. And the way I did that was to realize that I had beaten myself up enough, and I had taken enough from myself because of it. I had taken years of my life, I'd taken my career, my dreams away from myself. I took my friends away from me. I took everything away from me because I had so many regrets. And that is enough punishment. It's enough. And I think I've said this probably before, but whatever you think you deserve, and maybe, you know what, like, I'm not going to tell you don't deserve it because you won't believe it. It's not me, and this is another thing we're talking about, it's not me that can tell you that you deserve it or you don't deserve it. Only you can tell yourself that. So I'm going to say, whether or not you believe that you deserve punishment, you've punished yourself enough. You've taken enough away from yourself. no matter how much you may hate yourself, put it aside. If you want a different life, you have to put that aside. Still believe it if you need to, fine. But what is important is for you to realize that that is not useful. That's not useful for you to be doing. What's useful is for you to say, okay, I have punished myself. I have taken away enough of my life to punish myself for whatever transgressions there are that I believe I have committed, and that no matter how much I dislike myself, how much I hate myself, how much I want to just whatever, that's not useful, and I'm going to set that aside, because if I want a different life, if I want something different, if I don't want to wake up at 70 years old and look back on my life and say I could have done so much more and lived, because that's what I was doing. I was like, I could have done so much more. But you're living in that moment going, I could have done so much more. Okay, stop. When you can put that aside and you train yourself to think about other things than the things that you did wrong. Exactly, Dave. Discernment, not condemnation. Yes, I've done things that weren't to my benefit or to other people's benefit, or whatever your regret may be. Put it aside and realize that if you want a better life for yourself, you need to stop listening to that. Sure, it can be true. You don't have to believe that it's not true right now. If that's your thing, you're like, oh, she's telling me it's not true, but I know in my heart that it's true. I know in my heart I'm a horrible person. Okay, fine. You're a horrible person. Put that aside. If you want something different in your life, you put that aside and you start training yourself to think of other things. Start training yourself to think of other thoughts than how much you hate yourself and how horrible you are. Start thinking about what you want in your life and the fact that you're going to achieve it. Maybe that will hurt you a bit more. I'm trying to think about the stuff that I thought about, getting myself out of that place, and it was there's a technique called stop thinking, and if you can think of a good thought, right? For me, it was this train ride I took one year in the Alps, and I remember I was sleeping and I woke up and it was daylight, and I opened my eyes, and the windows, they're huge windows, and outside of the windows I saw we were going through these mountain peaks that were covered in snow. I literally opened my eyes and I thought, I'm like, oh my God, am I in heaven? That's one of those thoughts that burns in your brain. And when I was coming out of this, when I would hear myself, I would recognize that I was talking to myself in a negative way. I was talking to myself in a way that was not useful. I would stop and say, that's not useful. I'm not going to punish myself for it. I'm not going to say, oh, look at you, stupid. You're thinking those things again. That's horrible that you're thinking those things. You shouldn't be. No, not that. You say, okay, and you put it aside, and you go to that thought that you've decided beforehand. That thought, like, oh my God, that beautiful, beautiful mountaintop. And it will calm you. At least it gets your mind off of it, right? And you might have to do it 100 times in 1 minute, but you keep doing it. It's hard, but it's harder to stay where you were. And it's just that it's comfortable. It's not even comfortable, right? It's just familiar. It's what you know. And the thought of going out into the unknown is scary. So you'd rather cling to these old thought patterns and the things that you're used to thinking, because thinking other things is scary. But if you can break those, just start by breaking those thought patterns. That's where I started. And eventually you will get to a different point where you can recognize your own worth, but blah, 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 right? I'm not even going to talk about that right now, because I remember when I was coming out of it, I was like, I don't want to hear about my own self-worth. I don't want to hear about it. I just want to find out how to stop this pain. So that's my suggestion for you all. And that is meditation. Yeah, at least, yeah, Dave, it is meditation. It is. It's a part. It's just stopping those thoughts. Recognizing that you're having them is hard because you're used to having them. When you start feeling those, at some point you will become aware that you're having those thoughts and those, because that feeling will feel so bad, right? So you become aware and you start it starts by even just becoming aware and then changing it, right? And it'll be, maybe it could be 10 minutes after you started having those thoughts, you become aware, but you keep training yourself, you keep doing it. This is the key. You keep doing it. And little by little, and you know what, it's not even, you'll notice that if you dedicate yourself to it, it goes quick. I mean, it goes much more quickly than you think it would. And you train yourself to start, you know, it becomes less time between when you start thinking those thoughts and when you realize it, right? That time gets less and less and less. The more you do it, the more you're dedicated to doing it. And sometimes you'll mess up. It's okay. It's okay. This is one of the patterns you're breaking, right? To stop beating yourself up for making a mistake or for having a flaw. Just keep doing it. And this is like step one for me. It's just breaking that pattern. Thinking about something pleasant, right? Have an army of thoughts that you know, write them when you're not having a horrible time. Droplets in a steady flow of oil, right, Dave? It does. And it's just, you get, that becomes the new normal. Interrupting your thought patterns becomes the new normal. And you start recognizing it earlier and earlier, and you get good at it until finally one day you realize, I haven't had those thoughts in a while. And that feels good. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with right now. I am glad, I am grateful that I had years and years and years of regret and living in that and feeling hopeless and feeling like nothing could ever change, because now I have the opportunity, and I really hope this is helping people, I have the opportunity to share how I found my way out of that. I have the opportunity to share how I found my way out of that. And that's really important. And if there's one person out there that can recognize themselves in something that I'm saying, and something that I've told you that I've felt, or some of the patterns in my life that I've had, and they think, hey, if she felt that way, she felt the way I feel, maybe I can do that too. So I am grateful. I am grateful for that. And if I can choose to be grateful for 10 years of depression and losing not a useful thought, right? Not a useful thought. If I can be grateful for that pain, then anyone out there can choose to be grateful, right? So the thought I'm gonna leave you with right now, as our break winds up and my pumpkin latte is done, is that you can always choose to have a grateful day.